hasn't been another Marcelo Garcia yet, but for a man with such a unique style, Garcia has been responsible for a great many of the developments that have become staples of modern jiu-jitsu. Marcelo pioneered the use of many of the sit-up escapes you will see in high-level grappling today. Instead of trying to bridge and shrimp, Marcelo would clear the opponent's cross-face arm and sit up onto his hand, then move his butt backwards towards it in sort of a seated shrimp. Linked to this is what is sometimes called the post, stiff arming into the back of the opponent's arm or armpit and sitting up from there. By timing this stiff arm as the opponent's cross-facing arm crossed to the other side of his body, Marcelo was able to get up from underneath much bigger men. This all combined with what Marcelo calls the hip roll. When he meets resistance in a sit-up escape, he wheels his hips over to perform a short roll back to guard. But Marcelo burst onto the scene with the arm drag and the X-guard, and these skills made him famous. The arm drag was a basic wrestling entry that Marcelo would use from the feet, but found even more success with from his butt. Anyone who engaged him on the mat, often by reaching for one of his legs, soon found themselves being arm dragged. In this manner, Garcia was able to get around and onto the back of much bigger men. Marcelo Garcia's back control became the most dangerous position in jiu-jitsu, and through the years he has changed his focus to trapping hands with his legs and the use of the crucifix position. His breakout submission win, however, came against Shaolin Ribeiro in the 2003 ADCC final, where Garcia was able to choke Ribeiro unconscious before he was even able to get his hooks in for proper back control. To stop the arm drag, an opponent would often bring their dragged side knee up. The butterfly guard had already caught on once Marcelo came along, but it was somewhat stumped by the opponent taking a foot off the floor and working from combat base. Marcelo used the space created under his opponent to pull himself underneath them and into X-guard. In ADCC 2003, Marcelo was able to repeatedly get underneath Renzo Gracie, catch his far leg at the ankle and come up on top. As the years progressed, Marcelo began to focus more on the single leg X-guard. This looks like a footlock from the bottom and is now often called a leg entanglement because it is a preliminary position to many leg attacks. The single leg X was a checkpoint on the way to X-guard, but Garcia soon realised that he could sweep just as easily from there without the additional transition to full X. Most of Marcelo's sweeps from single leg and full X involve either timing a stand up to finish the double leg, or blocking an arm and elevating the opponent over it. Perhaps most interesting is that Marcelo Garcia didn't have a lot of weapons against standing opponents in his early ADCCs. Often it was a case of shooting for single legs off his butt if the opponent wouldn't engage him. By ADCC 2009 and 2011, however, Marcelo was beginning to use what is sometimes called the dummy sweep, or the double koichigari if you're fluent in Danaher. It was at first treated like a gimmicky sweep, but it soon became clear that there weren't many downsides to attempting it, and from this attack Marcelo could force the opponent to come down to their knees, or perform a quick shin-to-shin entry to the single leg X. Gordon Ryan has now won 4 ADCC medals with the same strategy of harassing the legs of a standing opponent and butterfly sweeping or arm dragging them if they come down to their knees. In fact, the shoulder crunch butterfly sweep which Gordon used to mount Buchecha in the final was one that Marcelo had used repeatedly through his no-gi career. Though Gordon attacks legs frequently, where Marcelo had one high-profile heel hook on his record after a 300-pound Rico Rodriguez repeatedly jumped on him. Marcelo was also famous for his use of the guillotine, being very open about the fact that he didn't like arm triangles or arm-in guillotines, because he found them difficult to finish against larger opponents. Instead, Marcelo got on the windpipe and pioneered the high elbow guillotine, sometimes called the Marcelotine. If opponents came down to meet him on the knees and dropped their head, Marcelo would snap up the guillotine before they had a chance to change their mind. But while Marcelo was known as a butt scooter, much of his best work was done on top. An adept guard passer, Marcelo didn't play much De La Riva or reverse De La Riva guard, though they were popular in his time, but more importantly, he didn't tend to get stuck in them much either. One of the ways that Marcelo punished opponents for reaching for his ankle or trying to hold onto his leg as he passed was to backstep. Whether he was backstepping from half guard or headquarters, Marcelo would often try to snag a quick guillotine. If the opponent let him get under their chin, he could often finish the choke. More often they would bring their hands up to fight his, and he would be able to step back over into a headquarters position with his leg free from grips. If Marcelo could get underneath his man's far elbow on the backstep, he would begin backsliding out of their guard, using his free leg to assist. By keeping his opponent's elbow open with the reverse underhook, Garcia could take their back if they turned into him. Often they would keep their back to the floor and give up the pass instead. The majority of the time Marcelo backstepped to make things happen. Here a short backstep sees Andrei Arlovski let go of Marcelo's lead leg and allows Marcelo to immediately return to passing the guard. Often after threatening a guillotine on the backstep, Marcelo would return to face his opponent on the ball of his lead foot and driving his knee into them. Sometimes he could slide across, into a lead leg knee slide or into quarter mount. Other times he would use the free leg as bait and allow the opponent to pull him into his leg over pass.
Before starting training with Marcelo Garcia, I'd never seen anyone do this, and damn it if it is not the most annoying thing when you're trying to put somebody in deep half guard for them to hop to this position. I had this whole plan the first time we trained. I was like, oh, I'm gonna try to go to deep half. I know he's awesome, but I'm gonna see if I can go to my better position. Well, let me squash the rumor for you now. No, I could not. So.
This pass lives and dies by where Marcelo's right knee is. If he can free it and begin passing as the opponent turns into him, they can be exposed to back takes. In 3 ADCC matches with Pablo Popovich, Marcelo repeatedly backstepped, returned to face, and allowed Popovich to pull him into the leg over pass. In their third match, Marcelo flowed through into a crucifix. But Popovich also did well timing Garcia's attempts in their later matches, switching to what is sometimes called a Y-guard sweep, getting his right shin inside of Marcelo's right knee. Popovich also used the no-gi lasso sweep that Eddie Alvarez caught Edward Foliang with the other month. It doesn't really fit in with what we're talking about right now, but it was dope and I needed to share it. Marcelo Garcia also made a point of focusing on standing passes to his left and low passes to his right, theorizing that he could put more time into each that way, instead of trying to be equally good on both sides with both passes. His low passing will be very familiar to MMA fans who recall Georges St. Pierre: force the half guard, get the crossface, perform the no hands pass to side control or mount. In fact, in Marcelo's last ADCC match, he passed straight into a triangle choke against Leo Vieira, especially unusual as he so seldom used the triangle throughout his career. The most interesting thing about Marcelo Garcia's passing and his jiu-jitsu generally is that he doesn't let what seems technically correct get in the way of what works. You are as likely to see Garcia perform a beautiful methodical series of passes as you are to see him hit a quick double ankle throw by, slap the opponent's top leg down, or smash through with a quick knee slide. And that sums up every development that Marcelo Garcia has brought to the game of jiu-jitsu. It doesn't always look pretty, but it does always work for him, often against men with close to 100 pounds of weight on him.